Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress, live Wednesday night podcast. We are sorry for the slight delay, but tech works when it works, and it chooses not to whenever it feels like. So without further ado, we have an absolutely amazing show tonight, and I cannot wait to introduce you to your guests, and hopefully everyone who shared this already downloaded the Parking Mobility app, because this is going to be the new and up-and-coming app right here in Rhode Island, and I cannot wait to tell you all about it. So welcome, Matt, to the show.
Thanks,
Hi,
Tina.
Matt. How are you?
Hey, Tina. How are you?
Good. We are so excited to talk everything parking mobility, because we all know that being wheelchair users, that's one of the biggest problems of us going out and about in the community. So tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Well, thanks for having me, and howdy from the Brazos Valley, Texas. I'm Mac Marsh. I am a spinal cord injury survivor myself. I had a spinal cord injury 22 years ago, coming up this June. And so I have been impacted by this problem myself over the years. And so Parking Mobility is a program that a group of us got together, developed, and really are wanting to get more and more people involved with. A little bit about myself. As I mentioned, I'm a spinal cord injury survivor. I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my whole life. After my injury, I ran one of our centers for independent living in Louisiana, was part of the Hurricane Katrina recovery efforts way back 15 years ago, and then or almost 16 years ago now. I moved to Texas about 11 years ago, and we started this effort to the Austin area. It's a really big tech town, so it was a great opportunity to work with some fantastic, passionate people who really know tech. And so we built this program in-house. We still do all of the development and all of the technology work in-house. We have a small nonprofit organization that develops technology to make our community safer and more accessible for everyone. Parking Mobility is our primary product. We're working on a few others. I am relatively newlywed. Married my wife a year and a half ago. We just got back last week from a week-long honeymoon, much delayed. But she pretty much threatened me that I better take her somewhere or she was going to kick me out of the house. We have a small ranch in the Brazos Valley, Texas, beautiful area. I know right now much of the country is kind of struggling with a lot of cold. It's 80 degrees and bluebonnets are blooming here in Central Texas. We have 3 fur babies between us. We have actually 4 fur babies, 3 dogs, 1 cat, several fish, 2 daughters, 2 sons, and 1 grandchild, and hopefully more on the way soon. So that's a little bit about me, and I know people are itching to talk about parking mobility, so we can get into that.
That is so awesome, and sure, rubbing in that it's 80 degrees down there while I'm freezing over here. Yeah, so I'm not liking that very much, but I do like the change of weather. And I told you one of my goals is I'm coming down to haunt you down there in Texas, so be on the lookout. But yeah, let's tell everybody what the Parking Mobility app does and why it's so important to bring it down here to Rhode Island.
Yeah, so we 11 years ago recognized that accessible parking abuse was a big problem. Obviously, we knew that many years before that. I had been impacted by it personally, professionally. We saw it across the country. A group of us were talking about it, couldn't believe that it was still a problem, and we started looking for solutions. I'm a data guy. I like numbers. Numbers help us identify problems and, more importantly, advise solutions. And so we decided we were going to develop an app to start gathering data around accessible parking abuse so that we could prove that it was a problem. So we developed the Parking Mobility app specifically just to do that. And it did that really well. In fact, we started getting a lot of data really quickly from all over the world without ever even marketing the app. And we still to this day really don't market. We're all about folks taking ownership, spreading the information between themselves, talking to others about the success of it, and making sure that we take ownership in the solution. So we developed the app. Anybody can use it. Anybody can download it. We encourage everybody to. Obviously, if you use accessible parking, you're going to see violations more than anybody else. We'll talk in a little bit about the different types of violations there are and how to make sure that you report properly. But just download the app, use it, start poking around with it. It does some really cool things in addition to being able to report violations. It also helps to build an inventory. We have the largest inventory of accessible parking spaces. You can search on an address and it'll show you the accessible parking spaces that are in our inventory. The more people using the app, the more that inventory grows. And I use that a lot when I'm traveling to go different places and look for accessible parking spaces. So the app is really kind of where everything starts. We also grew from that a full-blown enforcement program. So in parts of the country, we have partner communities that people can use the app. Their accounts are elevated once they meet certain criteria, training criteria, background checks, that sort of thing. And when they use the app to report in that community, then a citation is issued to the owner of the vehicle. And that's really where we start to impact the problem. So we first have to gather that data. We need people to use the app to gather data so that we can educate their community leaders, grow the program into the new communities, and then we can start to educate the violators themselves.
We definitely need to educate the violators themselves. It is such an incredible app. I have been checking it out for a while. We have spoken a few times until I decided to pull the trigger, and RAMP was going to take the lead on this in Rhode Island to bring this app to Rhode Island. So before we can get to anything else of fixing it, we need to collect the data. Can we talk to people a little bit about what the process is right now for Rhode Islanders that download this app? Now, anybody across the country can download this app and use it in your own states, but I'm specifically talking about Rhode Island right now. So tell everybody what stage that we're in and why this is important for us to do this.
So the Parking Mobility app works anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, actually. We get reports from all over the world, every continent except Antarctica. That's because the signs keep blowing down. But it really is critical to use the app in those non-partner communities. In fact, those are the communities that we feel as an organization are the most important. Those are the communities where we give the most support. Those are the communities where we spend all of our time and energy is in our non-partner communities. So like Rhode Island. Rhode Island is an interesting state that absolutely can have a volunteer program statewide. And that's something that is interesting to us because being from Texas, it would be almost impossible to have a statewide program. Texas is huge. It takes a day to get from one side of the state to the other. In Rhode Island,
it takes us about an hour.
Right. So we could absolutely. It takes me an hour to get to town. So we could absolutely deploy this statewide in Rhode Island. It would be a great example of how this program works. So we encourage people to download and use the app. That is where it all begins. A lot of people have this misconception that they can't use the app until a citation is issued from their reports. And that's the exact opposite. In fact, there'll never be a citation issued from the app unless people use the app to report. And so that's absolutely critical, is to start using the app. It's that data. Once we start to gather that data in a community, we feed it right back to you. So those people that are actively using the app get data reports. They get information from us about how to talk to community officials, how to talk to their community leaders, how to talk to their elected folks to make sure that they understand that, hey, there's a problem in our community, but we're not just here to complain about it. We're here to bring a solution. We're here to be positive. We're here to be non-confrontational. We're here to solve a problem that we're impacted by, but that impacts the entire community. Accessible parking abuse impacts our economics. It impacts our jobs. It impacts our healthcare. It impacts our society in many, many ways, and not just for people with disabilities. But it's us, the people with disabilities who use accessible parking spaces, that absolutely are best positioned to be a part of the solution. Parking Mobility is the only program out there that puts full ownership into the hands of the people that are most affected by the problem.
That is truly the biggest obstacle and the best thing. Everybody complains about it, everybody talks about it, but nobody does anything about it, or you go about it in the wrong way. Complaining, yelling, screaming, that doesn't do us any good. That doesn't give us results. And I know you talk a little bit about that, of how that actually hurts the process instead of bettering the process. Can you tell everybody a little bit about that?
Sure. We see that a lot in social media these days, where folks see a violation, they take a picture and they post it online because they're angry. I get that. I used to get really angry about it too, especially when there was nothing else to be done. When you post it online, first thing that happens is you start getting a lot of people with very negative comments. Oh, look at that jerk who parked illegally. I'd flatten his tires, or I'd give him racing stripes. I'd key his car. All of these really negative threats, and they're empty threats. People actually don't do it, but they threaten.
Thank God.
Right, absolutely, because that would actually make it much, much worse. When when a law is broken, the solution isn't to break another law, But what happens is, when we approach a community leader, let's say that your mayor is interested in this program, and we bring him good data and we say, look, there's a problem in your community and we're here to provide a solution. The very first thing that mayor's going to do is he's going to go back to his staff and he's going to say, tell me what this problem looks like. And they're going to go on social media. They're going to see those negative comments. They're going to see those threats. And the first thing that mayors and city council people tell us is, we don't want to have anything to do with vigilantism. We don't want to have anything to do with that type of negativity. So no, we're going to pass on this program. Those negative comments on social media are the biggest barrier to growth of this program. Absolutely, I understand people are frustrated. The solution isn't to foment that frustration. It's really to become a part of a solution. It's to take a positive, non-confrontational solution, and that's what Parking Mobility provides.
And that's exactly why we're partnering with Parking Mobility, because that's Ramp Solution. We never throw a business under the bus. We may point out some of the things that they may do wrong, but we'll never use them by name. We'll never post their picture, because we always want to keep that conversation open and positive, so that way somewhere down the line we can change that. So positivity is everything, and why this is such in our wheelhouse. All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty now. Let's talk about the app itself. Tell everybody what they can report, how they can report, and how easily this is all accomplished.
So when you download the app, it's really simple. There's going to be a little tutorial. It's a little cartoon that kind of walks you slide by slide on how to report. It's pretty simple. If you skip through that, because most people download the app when they see a violation and they don't want to do a tutorial, so they skip that. It's actually available in the menu of the app, so you can go back and look at it later. But I encourage people to download it before you see a violation. Download it now while you're in your living room and just start playing around with it. Try to break it. I tell people that all the time. Please try to break the app, because if you break it, it means you didn't do something wrong. It means we didn't do our job to build it correctly. So start poking around with the app, see all the things that it does. When you click on the plus, which is the kind of the action button, it's going to give you three options. It's going to tell you that you can add a space to our inventory. So that's just simply saying, hey, there's an accessible parking space right here. And it walks you through step by step. Take 2 pictures of the space. Tell us a little bit of detail about it. Does it have driver's side access, rear access, passenger side access? So that's those striped areas adjacent to the spaces. Is there any cost involved with that space? So is it on street, off street? Is it metered? Is it not? All of those things you can do when you're adding a space to the inventory. Another cool thing that you can do is suggest a spot. So in a lot of our communities, we've built really great partnerships with community planners. And so when they get ready to maybe change accessible parking, especially on-street accessible parking in downtown areas, it's not always where it really needs to be. Well, who better to say where it needs to be than those of us that use it, right? And so that suggest a spot is a way that you can engage your community leaders and say, hey, I'd really like to see some accessible parking right here. And it walks you through that process as well. And then, of course, the way that most people engage the app, and that's to report a violation. When you click on that, it's going to take you to the report screen. That screen has lots of stuff to it. It can be a little bit kind of confusing the first time you do it. That's why we encourage people to do it in your living room. Do test reports. Put TEST, the word test, in the license plate blank, and our system's going to boot it out. So that's not going to be an issue at all. And we encourage people to do that a lot. But the really most important thing is you got to take those 3 photographs. You have to take a photograph of the vehicle in the accessible parking space or the blocking violation. And I'll talk about violation types in a minute. You've got to get a good picture of the front windshield, and not just a close-up of the corner of the windshield. It needs to be the full windshield, showing that there's not a placard. So the placard is the hang tag that's usually from the rear view mirror. But a lot of times drivers just toss it up on the dashboard, or they stick it in the visor. It's really important that we have to be able to see that there was not a placard present, or not a placard visible. If that's the case, and you're reporting a vehicle that's parked with no plate, no placard, that windshield photo is absolutely critical. The third element is making really sure that we get a photo of the vertical sign bearing the international symbol of disability. Most people don't realize that is an absolute requirement in every single state. The painting on the ground is great. I'm originally from Louisiana. We call that lanyap, a little bit extra, and that's great. But it's that vertical sign that is absolutely critical to marking that space. If there's not a vertical sign marking that space, we cannot accept that report because it would not be legally admissible in court. So those are the 3 photos that have to be taken for a vehicle that's parked in a space with no plate, no placard. Once you've taken those 3 photographs, we encourage you to move away from the vehicle to complete the rest of the report. Completing the rest of the report is really simple. Choose the violation type. That's parked with no plate, no placard. Pretty straightforward. That's a car in a spot with no plate, no placard. Blocking violations, that has a couple of different nuances. So it could be blocking an accessible space. So that's that striped area adjacent to an accessible parking space. In that instance, that vertical sign picture that we require, it has to show the vertical sign that's marking the space that's being blocked. And so that sign is still a critical element. It could be blocking a curb cut, ramp, or other architectural improvement. So that's a vehicle that's blocking a curb cut, or ramp, or some other architectural improvement. We don't have to see that vertical sign then, but we do have to see that it's clearly marked as an accessible feature. And so that has to be shown somewhere in that photograph as well. Or it could be blocking another space. So this is a lot of times 2 accessible spaces are going to be adjacent to each other. And you've got one car that's just a little bit over the line, not the striped area, but just the line that's between them. That would be blocking another space. And so that's kind of a nuance that a lot of people don't recognize. The third violation type is an expired or altered placard. Unfortunately, we see a lot of that here in Texas. Texas has and not just Texas, there are other states as well that have plastic placards where they write the expiration date with a Sharpie marker on plastic. It doesn't take long for the sun to fade that, and you can't read the expiration date. But people have gotten smart too, and they use a little bit of nail polish and they wipe that off and they put a new date in there. If it's obviously altered, or if someone suspects that it's altered, or if it shows that it is expired, it's important to take those photographs. In our partner communities, those folks are required to turn those placards in. We've gotten over 10,000 expired and altered placards off the streets of Texas. We need to be doing that across the country because that is a real problem. They're called legacy placards, and we got to get them off the streets. The fourth violation type, and this is a little bit different that a lot of people don't recognize, is a placard that's not displayed properly. We see, like I mentioned before, people will hang their placard backwards where the expiration date's facing in instead of out, or if they just toss that placard up on the dashboard. We don't actually issue a citation for those infractions in our partner communities, but we do send them a letter, and it explains to them why it's important to make sure that they hang that placard properly. There's a lot of reasons for that. It actually is a safety thing for officers. And so we want to make sure that people display those properly. There's actually a fifth violation type that you can report, and that is an issue with the parking space. So it doesn't have anything to do with the vehicle. So a lot of times we see those parking spaces that don't have that vertical sign, or they're not properly located. So the spaces have to be the closest to the entrance on an accessible route. And so if that parking space has been located at the wrong place by the business, or if it's not properly marked, or if there's some other issue there, a lot of times we'll see where they put the cart corrals. Do y'all have corrals in Rhode Island? We do.
Yes.
In Texas, the cart corrals, they'll put those in the striped areas for the accessible parking spaces. They can't do that. So you can report that sort of thing as well. What we do is we use that information to go and engage the businesses in a really positive way, help them understand the importance of having accessibility features for people with disabilities, help them understand the power of the disability dollar. We're a huge part of the economy. If you're shutting your doors to us, you're shutting your doors to business, and businesses don't like to hear that. They want to be open for business. And so we come to them with solutions. A lot of times if we had over 1,000 vertical signs that were donated to us about 5 years ago. And so we went around town to all of the businesses that didn't have vertical signs and provided them with free vertical signs if they would just put them up and make sure that they were in full compliance. And that built a lot of goodwill. That built a lot of partnership with those businesses. And so we encourage people to report those issues with the spaces as well. So those are the violation types. It's really critical to make sure that when you're reporting that you use the right type. We process every single report that comes into our system, just like we process the ones in our partner jurisdiction. So if a case is going to go to court, it's absolutely important that we make sure that every bit of that meets the letter of the law. We do that for every single one of our reports, whether it's a partner jurisdiction or not. And the reason is integrity. Integrity of our data is absolutely critical to making this program grow. A lot of people get mad at us and they say, well, it really doesn't matter if it's not exactly right. If I'm not in a partner community, it is, because that data has to be exactly right. If it can't be relied on, if there's no integrity in that data, then we're not going to be trusted as an organization. We're never going to get the program to grow. And then we failed in our mission. And so we take this very, very seriously. We understand there's a learning curve. A lot of times people don't get it right during their first reporting. That's okay. If you report it wrong, you're going to get an email from us. It's going to educate you. It's going to help you understand how to do it better. It's not that we're angry at you. We try to be pretty nice about it in fact, we try to be kind of funny about it sometimes, but we want to make sure that people are learning and that you understand what the rules and the laws are as well as we do, because you're our partner. In fact, you're not just our partner, you're our owner. This program doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to our organization. It belongs to the disability community. And we want people to take full ownership in that. If you think we got it wrong, push back. Give me a call, talk to me about it, but be willing to understand that we have to meet the needs of all stakeholders. That's judges, prosecutors, law enforcement, city administrators. We have to understand what their needs are, and we have to meet those needs as well as the disability community.
I mean, Parking Mobility did all of the work. All we have to do now is utilize the work that you have done. And as everybody can see how positive this is, we're not out to go and punish people. We're out to make a better difference so everybody can work, play, and live united and everything. One thing I want to make sure that, is well known to everybody is your information is not given to the person that you are causing the violation to. And as well as you don't get to keep the information of the person or get their actual name or address, anything. So when you're parking, that is all confidential. Could you go into a little bit about that? Because I just had a question of that come in live.
Sure. So when you report, we don't disclose any personally identifiable information about you to the violator. When you've completed a report, even if you're in a partner community, you can see that report. You can log in and see that report. You can see the outcome of it. We have an offender education program, which I'll talk about in a minute, and that goes to our mission. Our mission isn't to punish. Our mission isn't to write tickets. Our mission isn't to make money off of tickets. Our mission is to change behavior, and that's how we meet the goal. And so, but you can look at those. You can see what happened with that ticket. You can see if it was dismissed by the judge. You can see if the person paid a fine. You can see if they took one of our offender education classes. But you can't see any personally identifiable information about them. So you can't see their name, you can't see their address or anything like that. And that's important because safety is critical. There's also certain legal requirements that we have not to disclose certain information. And that's legal requirements about not disclosing your information as well. But when you report, it's absolutely confidential. A violator absolutely has a right to confront their accuser in court. That is a constitutional right in the United States of America. If a citation is issued from your report and that violator feels that they're not guilty for whatever reason, they can confront you in court, but only in court. We're not going to give them your home address. We're not going to give them your name. You will get subpoenaed to show up in court. Now, less than 1% of our cases go to court. We're really proud of that. And that's that offender education part is why that happens. But when you go to court, we are there with you. We're there to hold your hand. We're there to give you guidance. We're there to give you all of the things that you need to be able to say, I saw that violation. Here's why I saw that violation. Here's why that violation was important to me. And here are the credentials that I have to be able to have a citation issued from my report. And then that violator typically shows up and goes, well, I didn't know it was a problem. And the judge goes, well, it is. And you owe us $750 or however much that the judge imposes. I want to get back to something you said earlier, too, about the fact that, we've done all of the work. We really haven't. All we've done is built a tool. Just like building a house, if you've got a hammer, that hammer is never going to build that house. Parking mobility is never going to solve accessible parking abuse, but it's a tool to solve accessible parking abuse, just like that hammer is a tool to build a house. If you don't pick it up, if you don't use it, it's never going to work. But if you do pick it up, if you do use it, I can guarantee you that it'll work because I've seen it happen. We've reduced violations by as much as 80% in our partner communities. I don't see violations in my town because we've changed behavior. We've educated people. People know they can't block. They know they can't park without a plate or a placard. And we're one of the few places in the country that has that. And I get it. It's a luxury for me now. When I travel and I see violations, I'm shocked. But I shouldn't be because that's the way it used to be here. But because we picked it up, because we used that hammer, we've solved the problem. Now we need it to grow. Now is when we need your help. Now is when we need everybody that is affected by this problem picking up the solution, using that tool to help us gather the data to grow the program.
And that's exactly what RAMP wants to do. We want to partner with you. We want to make it work. I mean, Rhode Island is the smallest state. If we can't fix this in Rhode Island and you can fix it in Texas, Rhode Island is doing something wrong. And you don't have to have a disability. You don't have to live this life. You could have a loved one. You could know somebody. You could, work at a job that you see these things. The more of us that are reporting, the more of us that are gathering this data, the more of us that are willing to make a positive change do the educational program, bring this program fully into Rhode Island, the better we're all going to live together. So again, we're not trying to do this to hurt anybody. We're trying to do this to educate and better Rhode Island. And that's exactly what we need to do. And RAMP is going to take the lead on this in Rhode Island. I've been working with Mac, and I am so excited. But now I challenge all of you. Let's see how much data we can collect. Let's see how much data that we can gather. And let's see, we already have major stakeholders in Rhode Island watching and waiting for this data to be collected, that are ready to jump on the bandwagon to make the changes. And I'm talking from our governor straight down to all community partners, like the Providence Streets Coalition, AARP. There are so many out there that are willing to jump on and work with this with us. We need you to collect the data and help us. Tell everybody a little bit about how, once we get the data, what's our next step?
So your partnership there in Rhode Island has been absolutely fantastic, Tina. And you know, we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with some fantastic folks there in your community. And it really humbled me to know that you've built this broad coalition. It's not just people with disabilities. Everybody is impacted by this issue. And when we start to understand that, and when we start to realize that, and we're able to articulate it, then we can get more people using the app. Talk to your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers. 9 out of 10 Americans have some relationship with a person with a disability. Everybody is impacted by this problem. So have that conversation. Say, you know, I heard about this really cool app. And it helps to solve a problem that I'm impacted by. And having that conversation, you can magnify your efforts. Repeat your question. I'm sorry, I got
the next steps after, you know what I mean, after we gather the data.
So the data doesn't belong to us, it belongs to you, the folks that use the app. So when you use the app, you're going to get emails from us that will tell you what's happening with those reports. How are we using those reports? How are we doing? Where are our benchmarks? Once we reach certain benchmarks in the system triggers us. I'm a lazy guy. I don't like to work hard. And so our system is automated and it has trigger points. And when you report, it triggers us to do certain things. Usually it's to trigger us to communicate with you, to say, hey, here's some data that's going on, and here's how you can use this data to educate someone. Here are the people that you can educate. And we will identify a city council person or a county commissioner or some elected official somewhere that needs to hear this message, that needs to see this data. And here's how you can do it. We're going to give you the talking points. You're not going to be alone in this. We will set up regular town hall meetings where we can all come together online and have a conversation about this. It's not us telling you what's working. It's us finding out what you need to make that data work for you. We're not here to fix the problem for Rhode Island. We're here to provide a tool for Rhode Island to fix the problem yourselves. That takes a dialogue. That has us having a conversation with you. Do we know what has worked elsewhere? Absolutely. Do we know some of those fears and those trigger points that elected officials have? Absolutely, because we've been doing this for 11 years. We can get you further down that road than you can get by yourself, because you won't make those mistakes that we did 11 years ago. But you own this data. It all belongs to you. We're going to feed it all right back to you so that you can use it to make your community a better place for you. That's what it's all about. It's not us owning this. It's you owning this.
And one exciting point that I know everybody is going to jump all over when I bring this up. Do you know what else you can report? Not only parking violations, but do you know, like when we walk through the city of Providence or roll through the city of Providence and everybody has left their scooters everywhere and everywhere? Guess what? You can take a picture of that scooter and you can report it. That is something absolutely reportable. And here's the thing. Once we start collecting data and moving into the next phase, that person may not be able to rent a scooter again until they watch a video on what to do with their scooters. So here's the educational piece. So we can not only fix the parking problem, we can fix the scooter problem, and bikes and everything else, and telephone poles in the middle of curb cuts, which is a wonderful thing we have here in Rhode Island. It's our added tool that we have. So all of these things can be reported.
Right. When I mentioned earlier about the blocking, other architectural improvements, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Sidewalks, curb cuts, ramps, doorways, anything that is a path of egress for people with disabilities. If you use a wheelchair or any other mobility device, you know exactly how dangerous and how frustrating those scooters can be. We've seen it. It was a huge problem in Austin, Texas, and we essentially solved that problem because what we did is we gathered the data, reported those. We had our users reporting those scooters blocking violations, just like they were blocking an access aisle adjacent to a parking spot. We took that data to the city. We sat down with the city and with the scooter companies, and we said, guys, we can fix this. And what happened was we got the scooter companies to say, okay, when you see someone who's parked that scooter incorrectly, they've left it in the sidewalk or whatever, take that photograph. We are going to integrate your app with our app. And so now that user gets a violation pop up in their app the next time they want to use a scooter, and they can't rent that scooter until they've completed that offender education. It changes their behavior. We can do that everywhere. Again, only if you're using the tool.
So see how many wonderful things that we can solve by using a simple app, a simple tool that is around 11 years collecting data. And like Mac said, he doesn't see any violations other than people who come into his town are the ones that they see the violations from because they're not educated. Let's do this in Rhode Island. Let's let Rhode Island be a leader. But if you've downloaded this app and you're traveling, by all means, use that app when you're traveling. Point things out. You got the app already, keep using it. And that's going to be the progress that we are doing. This app is so important to all of us, and we want to make sure that it's working for all of us. We want to have a better city. We want to have a better state. We want to live together, work together, play together with no barriers, with no issues. And this will collect the data that we need to solve those problems. What am I missing? I mean, I don't know how else to talk people into this, but I am fully on board with all of this.
Well, we're a globally connected community now. Everybody knows people from all over the world through Facebook, through other social media. One of the things that I would strongly encourage people to do is to connect with us at our Facebook page, facebook.com/parking mobility. Our Twitter is @parking mobility. Everywhere we are is parking mobility. It's pretty simple to find us. Make sure that when you're having those online discussions that you @tag us. Make sure that you mention us, but that you tag that comment back to Parking Mobility. People have a lot of misconceptions about this program. We've been accused of being everything from a Russian spy organization to somebody who's just stealing your personal information. And that's couldn't be any further from the truth. We're just a bunch of good old boys from Texas who said, hey, we can fix a problem. But when you connect with us and people are putting out those misconceptions, or you're getting a lot of that negativity and you need help with how to address it, when you @tag us, we can jump into those conversations. We can be a part of that. If you're getting pushback, or if you're not sure how to answer questions, or if you're not sure what to say about the program, and I encourage you to contact me. You can do that through Facebook, or you can do that as simple as mac@parkingmobility.com. I am the most easily contacted person in the entire world. There are 47 ways to reach me. And trust me, my wife knows every single one of them. But everybody else out there can do the same thing. We have a mandate in our organization, and there are 18 of us that work for our organization. We have a mandate that if you email us, we will respond within 30 minutes. Doesn't matter what time of the day or night it is, you will get a response from us within 30 minutes. And the reality is, it's important for us to be there for you. If you have a question, if you have a concern, or if you're getting pushback from somebody else, contact us. Let us be your team member. Let us help you in addressing that. Parkingmobility.com is the easiest way to get to the app. Just click on the volunteer get involved button. You can get other information about who we are. There are some great explainer videos on our Facebook page. Again, facebook.com/parkingmobility has all these little cartoon explainer videos that talk about why it's important to report, how to report, what types of violations can you report. I encourage you to connect with us. We don't do it because we're wanting to get followers. We love it if you follow us. We really love it even more if you don't just follow us, engage with us. Post on our Facebook. Tell us your experience. Don't post violations. That's not what this is about, but have conversations. Let's talk about parking mobility. Pretty soon, there's going to be a group in our Facebook page. It's going to be a Facebook group specific to Rhode Island. That's where we're going to start feeding you guys your data back so that you can use that. You'll be able to see maps of where violations are occurring. You'll be able to see charts and graphs and all the pretty things that you need to be able to have those conversations with your elected officials. This is your program. It's not my program. Doesn't belong to Texas. It doesn't belong to Mac Marsh. It belongs to the disability community. We are
so excited. You have actually earned a spot on our brand new website that launched this week. We are rampisinclusion.org. We're not .com anymore. We are .org. You can go on our new website and you can find parking mobility, because this is how important this is to us. RAMP will be tagging parking mobility in everything that we do. They are on our website permanently, and we will be going forward with everything that they need. So if you forgot how to contact them, or you feel more comfortable because you know me and I live here in your state, contact me. And if I don't know the answer, I will contact Mac, because I can guarantee you he has never contacted me in less than 15 minutes. He gives it 30, but I'm telling you, I'm within 15 minutes, I know my answer to anything. So if you feel more comfortable contacting me, you all know my information and how to contact me. If I don't know the answer, I'm learning as well as everybody else. I will contact Mac and see what we can find out. But collecting this data is so important right now. Parking Mobility app, go on to their website, go on, download the app, play with it, send pictures of your dogs. Learn how to use the apps. I've already sent pictures of my Great Dane and my Pit Bull, so they all know what my dogs look like. But play with the app. Learn how to use it. They're absolutely okay with that. You need to learn how to use it so that way when you're out and about in the community, you are using the app correctly. But the best part is, use the app. The only way that this is going to make change in Rhode Island, here is your chance. Stop complaining. Pick up your phone, use the app, and do something about it. This is what I tell you all the time. Here is a positive way to make change. Here is a way to have your voice heard. Here is a way to actually stop parking violations here in the state of Rhode Island. But if you don't start using the app, it's never going to happen. So if you really want change, Rhode Island, here is your opportunity to make that change. Mac, give us a 1-minute wrap up of why everybody should partner with us and you and everybody to make sure that this app is being used.
Well, Tina, I want to thank you for your time and your energies for this. The things that you're doing with RAMP are absolutely in line with exactly what we want to do. And that's to make our communities accessible for everyone, but to give everyone the ownership to make that happen. Parking Mobility is your program. The only reason to use it is because you're affected by accessible parking abuse, or someone else that you know is affected by accessible parking abuse and you think it's wrong. When you use Parking Mobility, you're making a positive change. You're taking ownership in the solution. We say it all the time. The solution is in your hand, and that's that smartphone. It is the most effective program that I've ever seen, bar none, of any app out there. It really, really works. This is yours. make sure that we're here to help you. Tina, thank you so much for all of your time and your efforts. I look forward to working with you guys in Rhode Island. Can't wait to get up there. You're going to have to warm up a little bit before I do, but when you do, I'm all about it. I want to be up there and visiting with you guys and getting this program going up there.
Oh, I'm so excited. And I will be coming down to Texas now because number one, I want your barbecue. Number two, I want the 80-degree weather. So see, we have another partnership between us and Texas, the warmth and the barbecue, and then they can come up and see our beautiful oceans up here. But I just want to thank you for bringing this. Everybody, Parking Mobility, download the app, go to the website, download the app, use the app. Make this happen. You are going to hear this nonstop. So you might as well just use the app and collect the data, because this is going to be the kickoff to Ramp and Parking Mobility's partnership, and use the app. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you, Matt, for taking the time and sharing this amazing and giving Rhode Island the opportunity to make changes, to real positive changes here in Rhode Island. We can't thank you enough, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Can't wait, Tina. Take care. Thanks.
Yeah. I just want to take a moment to invite everybody back next week. Next week, we are talking to another one of my favorite people. We are talking to Oakley's Home Access and all of the fun and amazing things that we have coming on down the pipe, working on together. So same time, same channel next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And as I always say, don't just sit there, make a difference and download the Parking Mobility app. I think I'm going to have to add that to my nightly routine. Have a great night, everybody. See you next week.